Aham Kalena Sprishta Vartmanaham Deva Uchu Tama Etad Vibho Vetam Samvijñāyad Vayam Vrisham Nahi Avyaktam Bhagavataha Kalena Sprishta Vatmanam Deva Uchu Tama Etad Vibho Vetam Samvijñāyad Vayam Vrisham Nahi Avyaktam Bhagavataha Kalena Sprishta Vartmanaham. Prabhuji. Deva Uchu Tama Etad Vibho Vetaha Samvijñāyad Vayam Vrisham Nahi Avyaktam Bhagavataha Kalena Sprishta Vartmanaham. Anyone else from the men's side? Madhajis? Deva Uchu Tama Etad Vibho Veta Samvijñāyad Vayam Vrisham Nahi Avyaktam Bhagavataha Kalena Sprishta Vatmanaham. Deva Uchu, the demigod said, Tamaha, darkness, Etad, this, Vibho, O Great One, Veta, you know, Samvijñāha, very anxious, yet, because, Vayam, we, Vrisham, very much, Na, not, he, because, Avyaktam, unmanifest, Bhagavataha, of you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kalena, by time, Asprishta, untouched, Vartmanam, whose way. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The fortunate demigod said, O Great One, just see this darkness which you know very well and which is causing us anxieties, because the influence of time cannot touch you. There is nothing unmanifested before you. Please repeat after me. The fortunate demigod said, O Great One, just see this darkness which you know very well and which is causing us anxieties, because the influence of time cannot touch you. There is nothing unmanifest before you. Purport. Brahma is addressed here as Vibhu and as the personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead's incarnation of the mode of passion in the material world. He is non-different in the representative sense for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore the influence of time cannot affect him. The influence of time which manifest as past, present, and future, cannot touch higher personalities like Brahma and other demigods. Sometimes demigods and great sages who have attained such perfections are called Trikalagnya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Shakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishagan Vitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhashatyate Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurattvise Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Tavai vina. Iti vigya devi tvam namam saranantikam. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to today's Bhagavatam class, the chapter description of the kingdom of God. Here, the demigods are speaking to Lord Brahma. Here, the word Uchu is used. Uchu means plural. Uvacha is singular. Like in Bhagavad Gita, you can say Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So when Krishna is speaking, it's singular. So Uvacha is used. Here, all the demigods, 33 million demigods have come together and they are speaking or praying to Lord Brahma. So there's plural sense used here. Deva Uchu. So Prabhupada translates Devas as the fortunate demigods. So the demigods are not ordinary living entities. They are the controllers within the material world. They control various aspects of material activities. Like Indra, he controls rain. Vayu controls air. And Varuna controls oceans. So all these demigods, they are very exalted personalities. In 7th canto, where Hiranyakashipu is causing trouble, the Supreme Personality Godhead addresses the demigods when they are worried. That he says that demigods are not ordinary living entities. They are the representative of myself, or the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are also the representative of the Vedas. And being the representative of Vedas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they set an example how the cows, the brahmanas, the Vaishyas and people in general should be treated. So these demigods, they set an example of how the world should work. So they are not ordinary entities. They are very exalted personalities. And being so exalted, they've been given various positions to maintain this material world. What is that? In second chapter, I guess second verse. Bhagavan Uvacha Kutasva Kashamalamidam Vishayama Samopasitam Anarya Jushtam Asvargyam Akirtim Karam Arjuna. Asvargyam, the word Krishna uses. Asvargyam means path which does not take one to higher planetary systems. Asvargyam. So, according to Krishna, Aryam, Anarya, so he is using negative, Aryam, Asvargyam, Kirtikaram, glorious activities, these are all very important, and one should aspire to be placed in these positions. So he is telling Arjuna, do not ignore your duty, which will lead you to become an Anarya or Asvargyam or a path of Akaryam. No, Akaryam, is it what? Akirti, glorious activities. So, Swargyam is used, the word Swargyam, a path to Swarga. So, the demigods occupy heavenly planets, the higher planetary systems, or Swargam. So, these are all glorious positions to be occupied. So, one should aspire to higher planetary systems and not belittle the demigods or consider themselves to be ordinary. So here, that's to point that Prabhupada is using the word fortunate demigods. So they are not ordinary people; they are very fortunate, and they are also fortunate in one sense because they get to see Lord Brahma, who is a very great personality, who is even our sampradaya. He is the first acharya within the material world. From Brahma instructs Narada, and Narada instructs Vyasa. So Brahma is a very great personality. He's within the material world, he is the first guru of our sampradaya. And these demigods have a direct link to Brahma. So they have direct access to Brahma. Anytime they want to speak, they can go and speak to Brahma. So that's not an ordinary position. Like for example, even us, it's not that easy nowadays to go and see a spiritual master. When I joined up, my spiritual master had like 100 disciples, so I could go and see him anytime I want. Now he has like 2,000, 3,000 disciples. So to even get his audience, it's not that easy. Even in this, here in the material world, there are spiritual masters here who have more disciples, 5,000 disciples, and it's very hard to get their audience because they are very busy. But the demigods have direct access to Brahma. Whenever they want, they can go to Brahma and raise their concerns or get his advice. So it's a very auspicious, very exalted position to be in, to have that kind of access. Even in a mundane level, we can't go and see the Prime Minister, even though he just lives 5 kilometers from here. The Kirubili house, but he can't go and see. They won't let you in. But what to speak of Brahma and these demigods? Could you close the door, Prabhu? These demigods have direct access to Brahma, and they can go and talk to him. And also, the demigods don't die like us in the sense, we get old age. And we get sick, old age and disease, and then we die, a bit of a miserable death. But demigods, they don't have that. They have pious credits, and with that pious credits, they maintain their very luxurious life in higher planetary systems. Even though they have a higher, luxurious life, they never turn into demoniac nature. Like, in future, like we can see Hiranyakashipu, he had all the opulence of the demigods. He even took up the throne of Indra. But Hiranyakashipu, he became demoniac. He started misusing the power. He started causing chaos. But demigods, they never go away from the control or recognizing the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they are always situated in a higher mode of goodness. So when Brahma leaves the planet, or when Brahma's lifetime expires, he goes to the spiritual world. along with him, all the demigods who have the pious credit left, they also go with Brahma to the spiritual world. So their destination is almost guaranteed. So which is quite, a nice position to be. People like us, we practicing devotion service, we could fall down any time. Like you can see, Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee, but in spite of that, he has to take birth as a deer, just because he developed an attachment and, has to prolong his life. But demigods have an opportunity, as when Brahma leaves his body and goes to spiritual life, they also accompany him. So there's an opportunity. And the demigods who don't have that kind of prize credits, they take birth when the prize credit, when their bank balance finishes, they take birth in the material world, but they take birth in a very opulent nature. They don't take birth, like poor and like us with no knowledge. They take birth in a very, with a bit of opulence, so they can continue their devotion service. So the demigods are naturally, in a very fortunate position, and that's what Prabhupada translated as fortunate. And the next is the word tama. Tama is used in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Tama means darkness. Here the demigods are complaining that the darkness is covering the material world. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the second verse, Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahadito Gaudodayo Pushpavanto Chitro Shamno Tamasa Nadao. Tamasa, the same word tamasa used by Krishnadas Kaviraj. That Mahaprabhu as Nityananda appeared to dissipate the darkness. Tamasa says here, the darkness is prevailing because of the inauspicious, eminent appearance of the two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Because of their demoniac nature, the whole world is getting covered by darkness. So, anything demoniac is inauspicious, and which results in darkness. Even these demons haven't even taken birth. They haven't even manifested themselves fully. They're still in the womb. Still, because of their presence, because of their atheistic nature, because of their demoniac mentality, the darkness, the inauspiciousness is prevailing. So in that age, in Satya Yuga, whenever this pastime took place, there was only two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Now, we live in Kali Yuga, where almost everyone is inflicted with demoniac qualities. More or less everyone is atheistic in nature. And they're all completely immersed in sinful activities. So we can see just two demons cause darkness. Now we can see the age where we live in, where full of demons, full of atheistic people. And we are covered by darkness. But fortunately, as the verse goes, Tamasanado, Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu has appeared to dissipate this darkness. So, in the age of Kali Yuga, we are fortunate. So, when this darkness is prevailing, the three worlds, they are addressing, the fortunate demigods are addressing Brahma, the great one, or Vibhu. And again, Brahma is not an ordinary person. He is addressed here as Vibhu, and also he is addressed as Bhagavan, or Supreme Person. Brahma is Guna avatar, or Shakti Guna incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna expands himself into three Guna avatars. Vishnu, he is a predominating deity of the mode of goodness. And Lord Brahma, he is a predominating deity of the mode of passion. And Lord Shiva is the predominating deity of mode of ignorance. So, Brahma is, in one sense, a partial incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though he is a Jiva Tattva, he's still been given the power, invested the power, or delegated the power. We delegate our power to somebody else. Like power of attorney. Like if you want to buy a property in India, you're not there physically. You give somebody a power of attorney, so they can, in your behalf, can go and do something. Similarly, here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has given the power of attorney, the Guna Avatar, to Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma can do the secondary creation within this material world and look after the affairs under his leadership, the material affairs within the material world, creation, maintenance and destruction. And also, he is also an Acharya. The knowledge, the Vedas, is being invested on him. The very first verse, Adi Kavaye Muyanti Yatsureyaha. He is the Adi Kavi, where the knowledge is invested in him. The Vedas is invested to Brahma. So Brahma can help the living entities to purify themselves and gradually go back to Godhead. So Brahma is incarnation of the Supreme Personality of God in the mode of passion. So that's why he is addressed as Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality. Generally, Bhagavan is addressed to, well, it's not generally. Bhagavan means Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Jnana Vairagyasya, I guess, yeah. So one who possesses, so Parashara Muni in Vishnu Puran says, one who possesses the 6 opulence of wealth, beauty, knowledge, renunciation, strength, wisdom, he is Bhagavan. And the person who possesses them all in complete is Bhagavan, who is Krishna. Govindam Adi Purusham. Krishna is that person. But sometimes Lord Shiva, Brahma, even great devotees like Narada Muni, Maitreya Rishi, they are all sometimes addressed as Bhagavan because they represent the Supreme Bhagavan. So since they are representing, they also get that glory. Say, we have an embassy here. If you go to Canberra, it's full of embassies. And they're all the representatives of each country. So if one disrespects the embassy, it means they're disrespecting the very country. So the people within the embassy have special privileges. In the sense, they usually don't get parking tickets. If it is a registered car for that particular embassy, if they park somewhere, of course they won't break the law. But if they do, they don't get a parking ticket. For example, in New York, all the various countries accumulated hundreds and thousands of dollars in parking tickets. But they don't need to pay because, when the UN convention happens and this and that, or, all those embassies, they park their car wherever they want because they are not in the jurisdiction of New York City Council. They're beyond, even if you give them a fine, they don't need to pay. You can't really prosecute them. Similarly, great personalities like Brahma and Lord Shiva, they are representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since they are representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are sometimes addressed as Bhagavan. So one should not mistake that Brahma or Shiva or Narada Muni, since they are addressed as Bhagavan, they are the Supreme Bhagavan. No, they are representatives of Krishna. Therefore, they are called Bhagavan. Here, the next word used is samvignya. We saw how glorious the demigods are, how fortunate the demigods are. But it doesn't matter if you're a demigod or a living entity or lower living entities in a human form of life, or living entities in animal form of life, or bird, trees, or whatever plant species. There's one thing which is common. There's one thing which is common from topmost planetary system to the bottommost planetary system. What is that? Anybody? Well, okay. more to this context, one thing is very common is samvigna, anxiety. Anxiety. Sometimes the demigods who are very close to Brahma, they don't die per se. They just go to the spiritual world, within their own body, within the body. They don't need to die to go to spiritual world. So the death is kind of becomes a bit loose in upper planetary systems. But anxiety, there's always anxiety. Even if you're a Brahma or you're a very insignificant living entity, there's always anxiety. That is the nature of the material world. There's always anxiety. You can see the demigods, they are anxious because the world is suddenly covered with darkness. And there's demoniac people who are going to appear and usurp their kingdom. So they are anxious to give up the position. Even Brahma becomes sometimes anxious. Even though here it says he is beyond anxiety, sometimes even demons attack even Brahma Loka sometimes, or try to attack. So, there's a bit of an anxiety there. And human beings, we are always anxious. The one thing is we are always constantly anxious. Krishna, what is that? Arjuna, when 2.4, I think, 2.4. Karpanya dosha pahata swabhava prachami tvam. What is it? Karpanya dosha pahata swabhava prachami tvam achesha chetasaha. So karpanya dosha, the element of you're in a position, you don't know if to go left or right. You're always in an anxiety, in a state where you don't know how to make a decision. You might have all the knowledge, but there are circumstances we're always constantly put in where we don't know what decision to make. Should I do this or should I do that? We're always in anxiety. So that is the nature of living entities. In higher planetary system, sometimes they get attacked by demons, so they are anxiety. Human beings, our knowledge is very limited, so we don't know what to do most of the time. That's why we take shelter of a spiritual master, so he can guide us properly. We will come to that. But yeah, the nature of that, living entities, especially human beings, we are always anxious. Even great acharyas, like even Prabhupada, when he went to America first, to US first, when he got on in Boston, the Commonwealth Pier, he writes, I don't know if I should turn left or right. It's this completely alien world. So of course he's guided by Krishna and he successfully established a mission, but you can see the anxiety. You don't know what to do. And we are put in that situation all the time. What do I do? What do I do? Am I doing right? Am I doing it wrong? What do I do? So that's anxiety is always there. So that is the nature of a conditioned soul. When the knowledge, when the jnana is covered by ignorance. So in this material world, the real knowledge, chit potency, is covered by ignorance. So when it's covered by ignorance, we are always inflicted by samvigna, anxiety. And lower animals, again, same thing. They're always in anxiety. When am I going to give? Where is food going to come from? You might be a king of the forest, but as a lion. But still, you're in anxiety. There might not be food. Usually, the prey tend to run faster than the predator. It's hard to find a rabbit or something to eat. So they're always in anxiety. Also, the animals have to, always have to keep a lookout because they have predators on top of them. They might get killed. A rabbit may be freely moving around, but the lion may be hiding. So there's always anxiety of life and death in lower planetary system. So this samvigna, the anxiety, is always present in this material world. But great personalities, as the verse goes, the great personalities like Lord Brahma, they are not affected by Kala, and therefore, and so since they are not affected by Kala, they know what is past, present, and future. So the word Prabhupada uses is Trikalagnya. So one who knows, one who has control, or one have control over the past, present, and future, they are called Trikalagnya. So if one knows what happened in the past, what is happening now, and what is happening in future, what will happen in the future, naturally you don't have anxiety because you know. So once you know, then like for example, if you are here, if your wife at home has prepared you breakfast, so you're not in anxiety. What am I going to eat? There's breakfast waiting for you at home. So there's no anxiety. Similarly here, Brahma knows what is present, future, and present. So he doesn't have the anxiety generally. The time factor, Kala, is, what is it? Sakalena Mahata. 4.2. Evam parampara praptam imam rajasiyo vidu. Sakalena iha mahata. Yoganashta parantapa. So the Kala is Mahata, according to Krishna himself. Krishna says Kala, time, is very powerful. Mahata, very powerful. It can destroy everything. That to that extent, Iha, he uses the word here, in this world, it has destroyed even the knowledge which I given before to Vivashwan and to all the Brahma and to the Sampradaya. So the Kala is all devouring energy of the Lord, which destroys everything. What is it? 13.4 or 15.4? Kalosmi Loka Krit. Kalosmi Loka Krit. Bhagavad Gita. I am time who destroys the entire loka, all this creation. So all this creation is destroyed by me as Kala. In fourth canto, Lord Shiva says in his poem to Prachetas, he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his form as time, is like a black snake which will strike a living entity when he is least expecting, in the form of death. So that Kala is like a black snake. You might be walking in a grass, not knowing, but the snake, it just strikes you, not expecting. So Lord Shiva says, so that time is the Lord himself. We are all going by our business thinking we are going to live here forever, but that Kala time could strike you anytime unexpectedly. Like COVID hit and a lot of people died. They were all probably thinking, I'll retire when I'm 50, then I'll take up spiritual life, and then I'll perfect myself. But they are dead and gone because something came and some diseases come and died. So the Kala is a very powerful entity, and that Kala can kill anybody. But people who are great personalities like Brahma, this Kala doesn't affect them. They are not affected by Kala because they are Trikalagnya. So Brahma is one of them. And anybody who follows the instructions or follows in the footsteps of Brahma, they also become immune by time, because they also become Trikalagya. They also get the knowledge as what Brahma has. So by following the footsteps of Brahma, the acharyas, the disciplic succession naturally is invested with that potency, where they also become proved of the time factor. That's why devotees don't die. Devotees don't die. They just change body from one place to go back to Krishna. So devotees don't die because they follow the supreme Trikalagnya within this world, like Brahma. Say in Dhruva Charita, when Narada Muni, Prabhupada writes, when Dhruva Maharaj decides to go to the forest, Prabhupada writes that Narada Muni, understanding the past, present and future, being a Trikalagya, knows the resolution of Dhruva and why he is heading to forest. So, knowing Dhruva's mood, he goes voluntarily and instructs Dhruva, because Narada is Trikalagya. He knows. He knows because he is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart as Paramatma. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everyone's heart. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows what everyone is thinking, what he is planning to do. And if one is in connection with that Supreme Personality of Godhead, I might not know what you are thinking or the other person is thinking, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead knows, being in Paramatma. But if one is connected with that Paramatma, and so you also know what others are thinking and willing. Does that make sense? So similarly, Prabhupada writes, when Narada Muni approaches Dhruva, he addresses Narada Muni as Trikalagya. Similarly, what it means is, he knows the past, present and future. He knows what Dhruva has went through. The harsh words of Suniti. He knew how this boy was humiliated, and because of this humiliation, he is prepared to give up the kingdom and go to the forest. That's the present. He knows the present. And he also knows the future, that Bhavishya. He also knows the future, that he is going to get the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to facilitate that darshan, Narada Muni goes and instructs Dhruva. So the devotees who follow the disciplic succession, who follows the Lord, Brahma, like Narada, Vyasa, they are also Trikalagya's, because they understand, they are future-proof, or they are, they are immune to the effect of time. There are many examples, like Vyasadeva. He wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. In this he makes a lot of predictions. Like he predicts the appearance of Buddha, the nature of his appearance, and he says he is beautifully dressed. In 2nd canto, 7th chapter, he talks about appearance of Buddha. Buddha appeared 2,400 years after Bhagavatam was spoken. 2,400 years is a long time. It's just a number we say, but when you think about it, we live for 60, 70 years. Divided by 2,000, 3,000 years, it's a long duration. And Vyasadeva has predicted appearance of Buddha. What to speak of 2,400 years? He has predicted appearance of Kalki in the end of Kali Yuga, of 400,000 years. And not just appearance of Kalki, he also even says Kalki's father's name, Vishnu, yeah. Anybody remembers? Vishnu Yuha, Vishnu Yama, something, that's the name of Kalki. So he even predicts the parents of Kalki, who's going to appear some 400,000 years from now on. So Vyasadeva, following the Narada, his guru, he's also Trikalagya. He knows the past, present and future. And similarly, we can also see Acharyas in our own immediate line, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He predicted Prabhupada's appearance, that, Amar Sena, Prabhu Senapati, the Lord's Commander-in-Chief will come and preach the holy name throughout the world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also predicted that people of fair skin will be hand in hand chanting the Maha Mantra or singing Harinam in Mayapur, which has come true. So people following in the disciplic succession of Brahma are also naturally becomes Trikalagya. So they understand. So the living entity who are always some vigna, always in anxiety, should take shelter of somebody who comes in the disciplic succession of Brahma. By taking shelter, that samvigna is dispelled, that anxiety is dispelled. So these acharyas have seen the truth, and with the truth they can dissipate the darkness. That's why the prayer we say, Om Ajnana Timirandasya. With the torchlight of knowledge, the spiritual master can dissipate. Is dissipate the right word? The darkness of the Kali Yuga. So the importance of taking shelter of Sampradaya is important. So we can live without the anxiety, without darkness. Guru Krishna, Kripa Pai, Bhaktilata Bij. So the Guru who knows a disciple or being in connection with the past, present and future can help a disciple to overcome anxiety and engage in the right activities. So we got like 3-4 minutes to go. Yeah, I can give some more examples. Like even Prabhupada made a lot of predictions. Even within our own society, even some of his disciples, they kind of belittle him by saying, "Oh, Prabhupada didn't know." Some of the vegan followers within our society, they say, "Oh, Prabhupada didn't know that the animals were getting slaughtered, so he allowed drinking milk." Or sometimes they say, "Prabhupada didn't know how the West works. Prabhupada didn't know how the women in the West are much more independent. So since he didn't know, he made all these rules and he wrote all these things in the scriptures. But if he knew, then he would now written. So if you want to go and change the work of Prabhupada, they think they are very intelligent. These are even followers of Prabhupada, some of his own disciples. But the Acharya is Trikalagya. He knows very well, how the world, what is the nature of the Western world, what is, the whole industrial revolution. He knows very well, he knows the animals are getting slaughtered, which he speaks himself in various places in the scriptures, where the cow is slaughtered, when it stops giving milk. He knows all these things. It's not like Prabhupada didn't know, and he was somewhat, he's ignorant old man from India. He just knows what the Vedic Indian way of livelihood is, and he is not capable to judge the westernized society and the ways and means of westernized people, so we have to come in and alter what he has said. That's complete rubbish. Being an acharya, being follower of Narada Muni, he knows exactly how the world works. He knew what the past is, he knows how the present is, he knows how the future is. And that's why knowing how the future is, that's why he wanted us to start farm communities. He knows even the breathing air is going to become poisonous, like what we live in. You can't even breathe air in certain places, then you get COVID and die. Even the air becomes poisonous. So he knew the demoniac governments which is going to take over, the wars, Ativrishti, the too much rain or drought. He knows the future. That's why he wanted, his society to focus on farm communities, so we are less dependent on outside world, so we can practice devotional service uninterruptedly. So, being an acharya, he is not, he's not an ordinary person. He is Trikalagya, like Brahma himself. So that he predicts and recommends things which are important to us. So not just the future of devotee communities. He's giving recommendations how the future of the devotee communities can live peacefully. But if you don't follow his instructions, thinking you are smarter, then then the government shuts down the temple because of COVID, and you can't even see the deities. But if you're living in a farm community, that's not going to happen. So the acharyas are invested with the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of the knowledge of time, so they know the future present, and the past, and their recommendations are for the benefit of the human beings. By following them, we can foolproof ourselves from the demoniac nature, the time, and ultimately the anxiety of living in this material world. On that note, it's 8:45. I'll stop. Any questions, comments, corrections, please? Well, they might go to the spiritual world and change their body there. I don't know. But, people, not like the first three planetary systems, when Brahma dies, they are, along with Brahma, the descriptionists, they all go to the spiritual world. It could be they can go to the sun planet, which is kind of a spiritual world because Surya Narayan, he is incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. From there, they might change a body and go. I don't know. I don't want to, but it said something. Some demigods, they go along with Brahma. It doesn't say they die, and then when the complete dissolution happens, along with Brahma. Again, it happens not in all universes. In some universes, it might not happen. But at least in our universe, where Brahma is a very highly qualified devotee, it's not an ordinary Brahma we have. We are fortunate to have a very devotional, Brahma taking up the post. Fortunately, the demigods serving him immediately get an opportunity to go with him. Change of body, I don't know where it happens. I'm sure, it happens when they get there. Yeah. I mean, what to speak of demigods, even Dhruva Maharaj, he went with his own body to Dhruvaloka, which is a Vaikuntha planet. Not only him, he also took his mother with him, and she didn't die physically, she just jumped on a plane and took off. Same thing with Prithu Maharaj. You can see Prithu Maharaj also, even though he's a Shakti Avesha avatar, he's still a jiva in one sense. He also went back home with the very physical body. So their bodies get spiritualized. And so yeah, there are some examples like that. Yeah. Okay. Avyaktam. Yeah. 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 Good point. Do you finish? Yeah. I guess it's a good point because the Pradhan or Mahatattva, Brahma is the first one. After that, Brahma is the first living entity, and that unmanifested form, he knows what is what, and he creates from that unmanifested. So he, do I make sense? Even though it is unmanifested, but Brahma, he knows nothing. There's what is it? Because avyayam, unmanifested. Because avyakt. Yeah. So the time is what agitates and generates various forms. The three, which is unmanifested, Mahatattva, and then the time, influence of time, various forms, material forms and bodies are all created. So Brahma, being untouched, he knows this unmanifested, he knows this avyaktam, and since he knows this avyaktam, he is creating. Does that make sense? Like, how do I explain? The rice flour, you have like flour. It doesn't manifest as chapatis or puris and things like that. But as a cook, expert cook, looking at the flower, you know you can make cake, the manifested cake, manifested puris and manifested chapatis, different forms. But Brahma knows, similarly, this unmanifested, he knows what to do with it and how to manifest with them, being an expert. And the expertise comes because he is in control of the time within this material world. That's my trying to explain. There's nothing unmanifest before him. Sorry? That's right, yeah. So that's right, yeah. Yeah, he has the knowledge given by by Krishna. Yeah, that's the thing, unmanifested and manifested. So, for the analogy I gave, I just made it up. The flower, for a person who doesn't know what to do with it, it's unmanifested. He doesn't know what to do with it. But for an expert, he knows what it can manifest. So there's nothing unmanifested to him. He doesn't look at it as just a bag of flour. He doesn't look at it as just a bag of mahat. He knows there is puris in it, there is chapatis in it, there is cakes in it. So it's unmanifested for him, in that sense. So you can see. Yeah, okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, great. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Ithai go Premanande. Here you go. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.